Okay, with that, we are back in session. After the closed session, from which there is no reportable action, we will now adjourn our Selma City Council special meeting and reconvene at 6 p.m. in 6 minutes for our regular meeting. Absolutely. Thanks for posting those maps. All right, with that, we'll begin our Selma City Council regular meeting. It's March 21st, 2022. It's 6:02 p.m. in the Selma City Council Chamber, 1710 Tucker Street, Selma, California, 93662. Teleconference phone number is 1-301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 822-2013-4298. We're conducting tonight's meeting consistent with AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953. Members of the public may access the meeting using the information I just gave. When on the phone, if you wish to address council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise hand, and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to unmute and mute yourself. So before we have our invocation, I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please, for Caroline and Doc Tavers, as well as Fowler Mayor David Cardenas, who had his funeral today and was taken from us far too soon. Would everyone please bow your heads? Thank you for this moment of silence. And now we will have our invocation led by Pastor Joe Alvarez of the Iglesia Antioquia.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we come before you right now just to give you liberty to move within us, Heavenly Father. We just ask you right now that you take control of this meeting, God, and everything that goes forward, we ask you for wisdom and for your guidance. We put everything in your hands, Heavenly Father, so we can do what you called us to do, to serve your community, to serve your people. In the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you for this privilege, and we give you all the honor and all the glory. Amen.
Amen. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro. Here. Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any council member has a potential conflict of interest and may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item presented during oral communications. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall please limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Does anyone have anything to say at this time? Come forward.
Michael Barone, and I live at 2003 Alton in Selma. President, I was born and raised here in Selma. Went to all. There's one issue that really bugs me. Veterans. Tell you guys, to me, I believe, I don't know where you're talking about putting them down Whitson Street, but you know something? That's a disgrace. Have poles everywhere here in the middle of town, the plaza, up and down McCall, and to really honor our veterans. I'm one of them. I mean, my brother-in-law even passed away. He died in Vietnam, 19 years old, Silver Star. To put his banner on Whitson, it's a disgrace. Placed right over here along with everyone else. You know why we have this liberty to have this meeting today? Because veterans that gave their lives. My father, my uncle, all my uncles, my brothers, many of my friends died in Vietnam. 7 from Selma. I think it's a disgrace if you're going to put it down Whitson. Should be they should have the privilege and be honored in the middle of town because they gave their lives. And that's why you have the freedom to have these council meetings and have here men and women who gave their lives. And I think they should be honored correctly. That's my thought. And one day, if they put a banner up for me, I don't want it on Whitson. I want it here in town. Many polls. That's a true way to honor people. And I just
Service. Oral communications at this time. On the phone or on Zoom, City Clerk?
Hi, I see Ryan Rossi with his hand raised. Hi, Ryan, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Ryan Rossi, and we've been asked to address this council regarding homeless housing. Our company is Fold'em Corp, and we have been responding to several cities' RFPs for providing civilized housing. The uniqueness of our product is that it is made out of galvanized steel, insulated walls, and they can fold down to 18 inches. So transporting them is very easy. We could bring 12 of them in on one truck. And what we've been doing for cities is splitting them in two to make them into 2 units, each 75 square feet. The units themselves are 8 foot by 19, so 150 square feet. And the properties of them make them very easy to clean and very easy to transport, very easy to move. We can set them up on a standard foundation or on jacks. We've just got our certifications for the state of California, and we would like to, if you have any RFPs coming out, let you know about our company, Fold'em, FOLDUM.com.
Thank you. We're on the phone. That we will start our consent calendar. Given that we don't have any special presentations tonight, all items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For the purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed or items from the consent calendar and placed back on the regular agenda. Council will then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Does council have any items or an item that they would like removed from consent tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to take off item I.
I would like to take off item F. Is there a motion to approve items 1A through E and G and H?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item F, which is the First Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Yamabe and Horn for interim city engineering services. So it looks like this is an item to raise the overall limit that can be spent during any one fiscal year for engineering services for this company, for Yamabe and Horn. That's a pretty good amount, going up to $500,000. So with that, I guess my question is the city in the market for going and looking for a full-time engineer or engineers? I saw there is an engineer later on tonight, but it's not like the engineering director. So what do we have?
Thank you, Mayor. Rob Terry, Deputy City Manager. The item before you is to allow for continuation of Yamabe and Horn to act as the consultant engineer at this time, to go through September of this year, and also then to go month to month thereafter if needed. But the intent is for us to identify what a more permanent solution for a city engineer and or right now are engaged in those discussions right now to ensure that we're going to understand exactly what we need, the funding associated with it. I would like to point out that the dollars that are allocated for next fiscal year or that are that will be coming back in the budget process for next fiscal year would include an entire fiscal year's worth of dollars that are anticipated for that. So the dollar amount that is put right there would not be just payment through September. That would actually, that would likely encumber the entire fiscal year, which is part of the reason why that looks like such a large amount. But the intent is absolutely to figure out the long-term solution.
Because the amount kind of caught my attention, $500,000's a big number, and you just look at that and go, well, why aren't we hiring our own engineering?
Absolutely.
For that.
And that does entail, some of those dollars also do entail the design of special projects that council had given authorization for staff to move forward with, such as the Clarkson Lift Station. That does include the full design of that Clarkson Lift Station as well. Amount right here.
And I would also point out the original contract with Umabi and Horn was only funded through October. So, what you're seeing now is sort of us catching up on those additional months that were not originally budgeted for in the original contract, because the plan was always to go out to RFQ.
Is the rate, or do the rates, is there any kind of discount for going up like this, or are the rates the rate, the hourly
They will
rates?
remain the same.
I just have a quick question, Tony. Okay, we're keeping them on board for the fact of we have pending projects, because I don't have a spreadsheet to show that we have pending projects at the time or at this time. And the reason I'm asking is because this is probably the 5th time I'm asking this, but we were supposed to have a groundbreaking this month for Amberwood, and we're almost the end of this month and there's still no groundbreaking. So
While I can't answer that one specifically, I think city manager might be able to answer that a bit better. That would predate my time here. I do know that I'm actively engaged with the Amberwood team right now and the discussions of moving that project forward as quickly as we possibly can. But I'll
Fernando?
Sure. The reason that Amberwood hasn't begun construction is because the sewer line has not been constructed to support that project. That would be constructed, originally was planned to be constructed by the developer themselves, but because of the rising cost of the infrastructure, that has not been done. But the city is working with the developer to find alternatives so that infrastructure can be developed and groundbreaking can start on Amberwood. But it's not anything that the city itself has held up. At the annexation and all the entitlements have been completed. Right now it's all in the developer's court.
Did they give you any time frame as to?
We actually have a meeting with the developer next week to talk about the sewer line for Amberwood. But we don't have and we will bring back an update, and we will bring back an update at the next meeting as far as our pending projects as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Guerra?
Page 204. Check register. 204, check number 79098 for Fresno County Tax Collector in the amount of $3,950.88. What is that for?
I will have to look into that with our finance department. It looks like some sort of refund, but I will confirm with you.
And then the next page 205. And it is, well, looks like they're kind of cut off, but check number 79176 or 7576 and 77 for this Thomas O'Laughlin, MD. It says medical director for February, medical director for January, medical director for March in the amount of 500 each. Do you know what that is for?
Sure, I'll let Chief Peterson answer that.
Yes, that is for our medical director position. Since Dr. Louis used to be the department's medical director, which we're required to have as part of our EMS program. Since his passing, we had been looking for another one, and that doctor has become our medical director. He does charge us $500 a month for those services.
And I believe that contract was approved by council in February, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
January or February, one of those. It was.
Thank you.
About on page 204, 79092, Department of Transportation, operational analysis deposit for $5,000.
Good question. Caltrans is currently undergoing a feasibility study for the floral interchange at 99, and that was the initial deposit to complete that work.
We get that back?
We will bring it back to count. Oh, no, we don't get that back. That's it's not reimbursable. It goes into the cost of developing the
Got it.
feasibility analysis.
And then right below it, Dinuba Fire, admin charges for fire med. Not much, but why are we paying them?
Those are, each year we have a program within the community that is shared between Dinuba, Kingsburg, and us that citizens can sign up for. It's a $50 charge. It allows them to, it covers their, what they would have to pay from their insurance for their ambulance services. So they pay this up front to us. And then if we pick them up in the ambulance, if they're co-pay or anything like that, we don't charge them for that. The program has been going on for a while now, and Dinuba manages the program. And I think quarterly, we pay them a fee for that.
Got it. And this is the admin fee,
That's the admin fee for that.
kind of a prepay system.
Yes.
Register. Okay. Is there a motion to approve items F and
second.
I? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Mayor Pro Tem Sher,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. And we have to consider our public hearing item tonight at precisely 6:30. So we will move on to our first regular business item and come back to that at 6:30, even if we're in the middle of our regular business item. And that first regular business item is adopt resolution approving the master salary schedule reflecting changes in job classifications and pay rates.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The item for consideration before you at the moment is with regard to changes in our organization and staffing levels. As over the last few months, as you know, we've made assessments in terms of our staffing needs, our staffing levels in every department, ranging from public safety to public works, essentially every department within the city. And what we are proposing now is the addition of new positions to support our existing workload. And I'll go through those positions specifically, but we're also looking for increases in 2 existing positions. So the first position, new position being proposed is human resources technician with a range of $3,559 to $4,326 per month. We're also proposing to add executive assistant to the city manager at a range of $4,357 to $5,296 per month. We are also looking to add a senior accountant to our finance department at a range of $5,689 to $6,915 per month. And in our community development department, we are looking to add an associate planner. We are looking to increase or update the salary for an existing associate planner position from for a range between $5,205 to $6,327.42 per month. We're also looking to add a code enforcement officer 2 position to provide promotional opportunities within that job classification. That range would start between $4,652 to $5,654 per month. We're also looking to create an engineering technician position to support our city engineer at a range of $4,271 to $5,191. Our police department, we're looking to increase our police chief salary to $9,731 to $11,828.14 per month. As you know, we are beginning a recruitment for a new permanent police chief, and we are hoping to attract the best candidates possible for that position. And then we are also looking to increase the public works director salary from $8,456 to $10,278 per month effective May 10th. And that is an existing position. The positions entailing the code enforcement officer 2 and an engineering technician and human resources technician required, or actually, no, just the code enforcement officer 2 and engineering technician and associate planner required a side letter agreement with one of our bargaining units, our secretarial, technical, and clerical, which was signed and approved by that bargaining unit. So at this time, the staff is requesting that the city council approve the new adopted salary master schedule, which is required by CalPERS to be updated and adopted. The impacts to the budget will be discussed in the next item with the mid-year budget revision item. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for the city manager regarding the update to the master salary schedule? Have any input from our community members tonight? On the line or on Zoom who would like to ask a question or make a comment? Bringing that back, I have a question. Can you tell me what the status is, city manager, of the second deputy city manager position? I didn't see that in there.
So that position was created previously with a previous council action. It was a reclassification of the assistant city manager to deputy city manager. We're conducting the first review of the applications received as of today. Actually, we indicated that the first review would occur after the 19th of March. So today would be the first day we're reviewing those applications. We have received about 8 applications so far for that position.
But we currently do have the 2 deputy city manager positions,
Correct. Mhm.
but only one is filled at this time.
That's correct. Mhm.
Because that was a major concern of mine. As you know, I was not in favor of the 2 deputy city managers just because of the size of our town. I don't think it's warranted to have 2. I support having enough people or more to reach the goals and objectives of the city. This is a lot of additional positions and a lot of different, a lot of additional cost pressure on the city. We don't have our update yet. That'll be in the next item. But is this it in terms of the additional classifications and payroll, or are you planning on coming back to the council at budget time for additional classifications and payroll?
Yes, we do plan on coming back to the council with the new budget adoption with additional positions. Keep in mind that we don't anticipate filling all of these positions right away. These are just to create the positions, and as we need, as our workload requires it, we would start the recruitment process at that time. But you're correct. We may propose new additional positions down the line, particularly with the adoption of the new budget.
Because to me, it just doesn't seem like we have the revenue on a continuing basis to justify adding so many positions at this time.
I have another question too. For this code enforcer number 2, is this individual going to be a weekend code enforcer?
No, our current code enforcement positions and this new proposed one would be a Monday through Friday position. However, even our existing code enforcement position has the ability to flex their hours so that they can come in on a weekend if necessary to address specific enforcement matters.
Because these are just the last council meeting, we had some issues that were brought to our attention. And a lot of these things are happening during the weekend. So how is that going to be enforced if we don't have a code enforcer officer going out and checking these vendors, or, I get it. Some of them are in the county line, which it's not city's jurisdiction. However, the ones that are in the city line, who's going to enforce those?
That's a good point. We have our existing code enforcement officers have been coming in historically over on a Saturday during the weekends to address those instances where there's vendors, at McCall, for example.
Right.
So we do have that in the budget for them to flex their hours one Saturday a month since I've started. But that will continue to be the case with the new code enforcement 2 position.
Manager, if I could add to, I have already started communications with both code enforcement officers for us to identify the workload Monday through Friday, exactly what that looks like, so we can start running the data to see, are there days during the week where we believe that it's light enough that one person coverage is sufficient, so that we can be able to offset the coverage there and be able to have consistent weekend coverage, as opposed to, say, if Tuesdays are traditionally fairly quiet or quieter, then maybe that makes sense for someone to have a Tuesday day off as opposed to a Saturday, Sunday day off. And so we've already begun the discussions there to at least run the data and see what that looks like. So we could then take that to the city manager for his consideration and then come back to council if and as appropriate.
Rob, I just want to say thank you in regards to that report. You just actually answered the reason why we need this salary maintenance or this salary increase and this this analysis done, and we need to accept it. We just a couple of items ago, we were asking about a groundbreaking for Amberwood. I believe that in the past 2 years, our hiccup has been with our staff and understaffed and undermanned. So when we start talking about what we're doing with regards our people and our staffing levels and what we're able to do, I am a firm believer that the city of Selma needs to increase and hire people so we can move this city along. And, this item is this mastery salary schedule is a must for this community. Not only do we have to pay our staff properly, we have to get them to get to a point where we can make sure we do the adequate decisions to move the city ahead. So I thank you for that analysis that you just stated. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Councilmember.
Almost 6:30. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Item.
approve it.
Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro. Councilmember Guerra.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
No. And with that, we will move on to our public hearing item tonight, which is redistricting, fourth public hearing to receive input from the community regarding proposed draft district maps, composition of district boundaries, communities of interest, and introduce an ordinance redefining the boundaries of city council electoral districts.
Thank you, Mayor Robertson. Reina Rivera, Selma City Clerk. As the mayor mentioned, the change in items on our agenda is due to Election Code 21607. That states new language that requires us to start the public hearing at a fixed time. So our public hearing notice went out stating that the public hearing for our redistricting would occur at 6:30. So the legislator added this provision so that the public would not have to sit and wait for hours for the redistricting item to be considered. Not to say that our council meetings last hours and hours, but it's a good thing to have it noticed at a specific time. So as we go on to discuss the redistricting item, this is our fourth public hearing to receive input from the community regarding the proposed draft district maps, the composition of district boundaries, the communities of interest, and to introduce an ordinance that redefines the boundaries of the city council districts. So this is our fourth one. We've held three other public hearings in compliance with election code sections 21620 through 21629. Our first one started on August 2nd, 2021. Our second one was held on August 16th. Our third one held on February 2nd of 2022. So this is the fourth and final public hearing that's required by law. However, as you are aware, this is an ordinance and we will have a second reading for this ordinance on our next agenda. So the purpose of this meeting is to receive further public participation, request further public participation. Our citizens we've been utilizing a number of different engagement tools for our citizens. So we've posted redistricting information on our social media platforms, distributed information via email, placed ads on our digital billboards, and posted on the Selma Enterprise as well as our dedicated redistricting website page on our city website. I will now introduce Shalice with NDC, and I will share my screen so that she can present a PowerPoint presentation. Hi, Shalice.
Hi, thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. If it's okay with council, I'm going to move quickly through the first few slides because this is the fourth time you've seen this presentation, and I'm sure that you could probably deliver it as well as I can at this point. But we do have it available if anyone has questions or want to go back to any of the screens. Next slide, please. Raina just outlined for you the 4 required hearings that are required of the Fair Maps Act, and we are in the 4th public hearing. The first 2 were held prior to the release of draft maps, and the last 2 were held after draft maps been available for the council to see and deliberate. Map adoption must be done by law by April 17th, so the city is on track to meet that deadline. Next slide. There are federal and state laws that we must follow. The federal laws are equal population based on the 2020 census. When the city first moved to districts, it used the 2010 census. So there needs to be some adjustments to adjust for how the population growth occurred in the city. We can draw maps. We must follow the Federal Voting Rights Act and no racial gerrymandering, meaning we can consider race, but it cannot be the only or primary factor. The center column is the Fair Maps Act. This is actually now a law. It's required. It wasn't when the city created its districts. However, the city did use these very same this very same list of criteria when it adopted its boundaries. So it's not surprising that its existing maps follows this criteria because we did use it as a guideline. Now it's mandatory. Each of the maps that are presented to you tonight adequately meet all of these criteria of contiguousness, communities of interest, easily identifiable boundaries, and compactness. So we don't see any legal issues with any of the maps, so it'll be just up to the council to determine what best meets the city's needs. Column 3, traditional redistricting principles can be considered after we've met all the federal and state criteria. And those could be considering minimizing the amount of voters that are shifted from a 2022 election cycle to a 2024 election cycle. So you can imagine if someone was anticipating voting in 2022 and then they're placed in a 2024 district, it actually could be 6 years since they would have voted for a council member. Respecting voters' choices and continuity in office, that deals with if we can draw a map that avoids and meet all the criteria and avoids pairing incumbents. We presented that option. So we allow the voters to determine who has earned re-election and who hasn't, as opposed to maps being drawn with several incumbents in one district and the voters being told you can only choose one. We can slightly underpopulate for future growth, but we have to have near equal population, and there can be no more than a 10% difference between the least populated and the greatest populated. Another principle can be considered is preserving the core of existing districts to avoid voter confusion. Next slide, please. When we looked at the existing plan to see if the city could just simply readopt its boundaries as they existed, we saw there was the growth in the city wasn't evenly distributed. We saw more growth in District 2, and we saw less proportionate growth in District 1. So we are over that. There's a 12.29% difference between District 1 and District 2 in population percentages, so that exceeds the 10%, and we do need to adjust the boundaries. Each of the districts must have about 6,192 people in each of the districts. Next slide. At the last meeting, we presented maps 101, 102, 103, and 104. The first 3, 101, 102, or 103, were drawn by NDC. 104, 105, and 106 were drawn by members of the public. As I mentioned, each of the maps meet the what we see on its face as the criteria for California law. So it would just be what the council believes best meets the maps, the best meet the city's needs. Maps 104 and 105 do pair council members in districts in the Southeast District. And those two paired council members are of a different election cycle. We have a 2022 election cycle and a 2024 in that Southeast District. So we will if either of those maps are selected, we will talk about the council's options for assigning election numbers which correspond to the election year for each of those maps. Next slide, please. Map 101, I'm sorry, this is the existing districts as they are today. And this is how we're presenting each of the 6 maps, just to give you a little bit of statistics for each of the maps. What you're seeing in the table, an important category when we are considering maps is the citizen voting age population. And in most cities, that's a key concern because we're looking to have a majority district of our protected class groups. However, for the city of Selma, every district in each of the maps, each of the 6 maps does have a majority Latino or Hispanic district. So, so it's not as big of a concern for the city of Selma. And this does show you that will show you the population balance in each of the districts as well. Next slide. Map 101 shows the least amount of change between the city's existing district or the existing boundaries and in this proposed map, there's just a slight change. Shifting for population balance, people from District 2 to District 1, just south of where North Hill Street is. And you can see that in this map, the red lines show the existing districts, and then the color shows what the new district would be. Next slide. Map 102 is an attempt to just it's all, I guess, a matter of choice or what you see as being compact. Just an attempt to kind of square off districts 1 and 2 as much as possible. It's not quite possible to make it as square as you'd like things to be because we have that issue of population balance. So again, you can see the dotted lines showing where the existing boundaries are and how this map would differ from that. There are no council pairings in this map as well. And Raina, for those who are watching, is showing the outline differences of where those changes would be. The next map, next slide. Map 103 focuses on making districts 2 and 3 slightly more compact. But again, there's quite a bit of change from the existing district boundaries. And map 104. The plan submitter, this is one of the maps that was submitted by a member of the public, and the plan submitter is saying that their goal was to try to divide the districts into quadrants, and stating that it puts the neighborhoods together so that elected council member lives in that particular neighborhood. In this council member, in this particular map, it's district number that is assigned with the number 4 that would have 2 council members paired in District 4, and it would leave district the district that is assigned District 3 in this map would not have a seated council member. Next slide. Map 105 is another map that was submitted by a member of the public. I don't have comments that were submitted, but you can see that the District 4, it has a different configuration than the others, in that it keeps the existing and goes a little bit up to include more of the older town area. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I know there was a name, can't remember if it was Old Town or. And then map, and this does not have any council pairings, map 10, and then the final map 106 is, as you'll see, is also drawn more in a quadrant style. I don't have, the map submitter did not submit map comments as well. This one does have pairings in its southeast district. And you can see that the map submitter assigned that southeast district as number 3. And then the Southwest District as number 4. Next slide. This particular slide, I know it's small, but we have it in here in case the council wants to have it up on the screen when they're looking at to compare the differences between the maps. This is a quick way to do it. We also have an interactive review map that's available that we can zoom in on the streets. We can get very close to where the street boundaries are and see the underlying street names. We can even bring up a satellite image if you so desire. Next slide. This is also a snapshot of just the small amount of the complete demographic data that's available on the website. On the website, we have more information about language spoken at home. In addition to the citizen voting age population, we also have other categories such as housing status, income level, education level, multi-housing versus single family homes, the percentages of people living in each of those districts. The next slide. When we talk about sequencing is, again, the election year that's assigned to each of the districts. And the laws state that the district numbers that are up in 2022 will also be up, will still be up in 2022. So the numbers will not change. So districts 2 and 3 are scheduled to be up in 2022. Districts 2 and 3 will be up in 2022. Election year 2024 will be districts 1 and 4. However, and as I tried to point out between the differences in maps, for example, 104 and 106, the numbering was different, and certainly council has the option to number the map whichever way it chooses. So after the council selects a map, then we would ask that the council take a look at the numbering and see if there's any desire to change the numbering. The next slide. So as Rena said, this is a public hearing to receive input on the draft maps. And after the public hearing is closed, we'll ask council to deliberate and identify a preferred map for adoption. If the council wants to change those district numbering assignments, that would be their time to do it, and then introduce an ordinance adopting the new map. As I mentioned, all the maps are available on the website and can be viewed in a printable PDF format. Each map is 2 pages. The first page is the map, second page is the full demographic summary. And the best way to look at the maps, again, if you want to zoom in closely or to type in your address, for example, is through the interactive review map. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions now or after the public hearing, or both, whatever your preference is.
Thank you, Shalise. Appreciate your presentation tonight. It is our 4th go around, but I always learn something new with each presentation. So thank you. Just to clarify, what is the absolute deadline, drop dead date that the city has to adopt the new districts?
April 17th.
17th, okay. Thank you. And with that, since this is a public hearing item, I will first refer the matter to City Council for any questions at this time for Shalise. And then we will certainly come back to council. But if we have no questions, or we do have questions at this time, I will open the matter to the public. Do we have any questions at this time by City Council? With that, I will open the matter for the public hearing. Does anyone from the community tonight have any input on this item?
I thought it was a great presentation, but what I'm just want to make sure I'm clear on is we have to change it. It has to be changed, is what they're talking about. It's
Yes, you're required to make changes.
Anybody else have any questions or statements at this time? We have anyone on Zoom? Okay.
2435, Chaparral. I grew up in the Vadio and I noticed some of those maps. Just to make it clear, and I hope that you all would consider. I now live on the opposite side of town. And if I was, representing an area, if I lived in an area, I want representation from somebody that lived in my area. And that's probably what I would say you all need to consider going forward. And I think the Vadio really does need representation from somebody living in that area, not from across town. And just again, to make it fair and to make it a little bit more, I'd say, relatable to the citizens.
Or public input?
I just want to say that you have these different districts, you have these different representatives. Still, I haven't found out who my representative, on one of the meetings they told me, and I've never seen the representative. I feel that you can district, you can put all these little things, cut it up in this area, that area. But the people that are supposed to represent us, they're not there. Only time I see them is when they wanted our vote. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. They need to represent. They need to go door to door and find out what's going on in the community, what's happening. Important that they do that. My area, 2 houses have been burned down. Why? Because I don't know if the court enforcement, they haven't, and there's just like a couple of houses down, a house was burned down, 2 blocks away on Aspen, another house was burned down. Look around the neighborhoods, there's weeds and junk growing all over the place. There's issues. We can redistrict, we can rechange. These people that are elected need to represent the people of each area. I'm sad, it's sad because they're not. I never see them. I see them when they want my vote. I never see them. I live at the corner of Alton and McCall. Who's my representative? I like to see them. I like to talk to them about the issues that are there. Thank you for your time to let me talk.
But
(1701) Danube Avenue. I agree with the previous gentleman who stated that people should live close to or in that district, not across town. I know the way that the maps are now, somebody at one end of town is representing somebody at the complete opposite of end of town. And so they don't really live in that neighborhood. You might have relatives who live there. You might have grown up in that neighborhood. I mean, I grew up in the Vadio. I still have family that lives in the Vadio, but I don't know what's going on in the Vadio on a day-to-day basis. So I think that the way that a couple of the maps were drawn more in a quadrant fashion, that somebody living in that area knows what's going on with their neighbors and in their neighborhood. And I think that that's the wisest, most fair way to make the districts.
A reminder to the callers that I see online, please use your raise your hand feature in the Zoom app and we will add you to the meeting queue.
okay, with that, we will close the public hearing and bring the matter back to council. Does council have any comments at this time?
I actually agree with the gentleman also. I'm new on the council and I am representing the Barrio area, and that is not an area I am familiar with. So I think it should be more even and balanced out, that somebody that knows the area should be running for that district. And I do agree with that.
I was gonna say the same thing. I feel that somebody in a area that has a higher income, which technically, which typically is gonna be on the one side of town, they may have more resources to run in that area, and they feel like they're not gonna be able to compete with somebody that lives in the Barrio area. You know, they may choose to stay in the Barrio just because they like that area and they may have the means, but if somebody's really passionate about going for council to represent their area, and they just don't have the means or they don't have the support, an area in a different financial bracket. And so I'd like to see something more on to make it fair, you know, to have fair representation.
Further input? Okay. You know, I look at the maps. One of the things that always encouraged and inspired me about Selma, it's not my hometown, it's my wife's hometown. And she's exactly what you described. She came from the west side. And where we live now, she used to pick grapes. And she definitely is a resident of both neighborhoods. I know if you ask her, I don't think she would say she's a resident of one neighborhood over the other. And I really like that about Selma, that it's a small enough town that we're all in the same neighborhood. We all breathe the same air. We all drink the same limited water. And one of these maps, this 104, literally puts the west side on the other side of the tracks. Literally. And almost as if it's ostracizing that side. And I don't agree with that. I think we're all one in Selma. And I don't have a problem with putting it into quadrants. I think, you know, that's an idea that has merit. At the same time, I don't think a particular section, in this case, the west side, should be set on its own. And to get to fairness, if you want to talk about fairness, look at a couple of these maps that put a couple of elected officials in the same district as Shalice, the professional that the city hired and paid big bucks to, who knows a thing or two about districting principles, is you don't put elected officials in the same district. And there are several of these districts that have two current elected officials in the same district, which means that one wins and one loses potentially. One can't run for election this year because the election in that district is slated for 2024. So my comments are that we, the council, should be fair and have an overview and think about what our city means and what the best part of our city is. And to me, it's not identifying with a particular ethnicity. It's not identifying with a particular culture. It's not identifying with a particular region. It is identifying that we are one people. And that's what I've always found attractive about Selma. Whether it's Latino, whether it's Caucasian, whether it's Asian American. Selma takes all of our abilities and all of our talents to make this city what it can be. And it can be great, but it takes all of us working together. And I think districting should reflect that. Thank you. Anyone have a motion for a particular map tonight? I mean, I think we're picking.
I'll make a motion to approve 106.
I'll second it.
So that we have a clear record, would that be a motion to introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance identifying a preferred map? And that map is 106, you said?
Exactly, and that's going to take it to 106. I'll put District 4 as District 3. And I'll switch District 3 to District 4. So in 2024, it'll put 4 and 2 for the election. 1 and 4, I'm sorry, I apologize. 1 and 4. Motion still.
Hold on.
stands.
So the motion is to switch the numbers for map 106 from 3 to 4.
I'm making a motion to approve map 106. And and that motion carries with the map number, the district, would it be 2 or no, 4? 3. 3 would turn to, that's what I thought. 4 would turn into 3.
And just for clarification, so are you saying the district where includes the barrio would be district, what number would you like that to be?
That would be 4.
4.
4.
It would be 3. You would change it to 3, right? You're changing
We talking about
the
present?
west side.
Yeah, we're talking about present, or are we talking about future? Right
It-
now,
Your proposed map, the proposed map that you would like.
the proposed map that I would make a motion for is 106,
Mhm.
which would put it as,
And the barrio would be assigned district number what?
the body would be district number 3.
Okay,
So the next election would be 2 and 4. This year's election will be 2.
I mean, that means the west side doesn't have an election this year. Shalice?
That's
And By the
correct.
way, does Mayor Pro Tem Cho, do you agree with that? Changing the numbers from 3 to 4? What would,
So-
can we ask Shalice what the impact on the elections would be if the motion would carry to go with map 106 and invert numbers 3 and 4? Tell me what would happen this election.
Well, for this election, districts 2 and 3 are going to be on the ballot. So the question, the real question is to just make sure we are all very clear that the barrio is going to be District 3. Is that what the desire is? And District 3 is up in 2022. So it would be different than what the map submitter proposed. Is what I understood. This is map 105 that's showing. So we need to go to map 106.
So my motion is to approve map 106. Right now, we have District 1 and 4 voting in take election in 24.
Mhm.
What I'm stating, why don't we just keep the same numbers? Just keep the same numbers and have the election for 2 and 3 this year.
Okay, so would you like it numbered as it's shown on the screen?
It's just shown on the screen.
That's
So I make a
what would
motion,
happen,
I
2 and
make a,
3.
yeah, I make a motion for map 106 and keep the numbers as is.
Okay, so that means that the barrio would vote in 2024.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a first and a hold on, Mayor Pro Tem. Was that your original motion to keep the numbers the same?
Now that I understand it, yes.
Okay, so now we have a first and a second that opens discussion on the floor. Okay, so that means that in District 3, we have 2 council members. Is that correct, Shalice? Current
Yes,
council members?
That's correct. In
Actually,
the
3,
proposed
'cause
District
I'm a
3,
council
yes.
member,
Mhm.
right? So you got the
Correct.
mayor, you got council member Guerra, and you have Mayor Pro Tem Cho, who are all crammed into that district. Is that correct?
You have 2. Mhm. You have.
Well, I
you
consider
have-
myself a council member.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Okay, thanks. So even though the term for the mayor's up every 2 years. Okay, So that is patently unfair because you have two council members in the same district. Again, this violates the principle of districting to keep incumbents in two different districts. So the impact of this is that Councilmember Guerra, who's up this year, she has to not run. Her constitutional right to run is taken away because this election for District 3 isn't up until so District 3 would be up this year. Okay. And then is Councilmember Cho is in what district?
Cho would also, for this map, Cho would be also in District 3.
In 3. So then Councilmember Cho, who ran, would she not run again this year? Since
She
she's up
could
for-
have,
She has 4-year term.
her term expires in 2024. If this map were adopted, she could choose to run in 2022 and abandon and vacate her 2024 seat. If she were successful. If she were unsuccessful, she would retain her 2024 seat.
So for clarification, the ruling is that if a council member is currently, if we have to redistrict, and there's two council members in the same seat, the person that is currently running will just not be able to run in 2024 if he or she chooses not to run, right? Because she's currently District 4, but when her election year comes up, she can choose not to run, one, because she's not in the district, or she'd have to move to that area if she wants to run. Is that correct?
You have two council members. If this map that's on the screen is adopted, you have two council members that are in District 3, and District 3 is up in 2022.
Correct.
So you have Cho, you're exactly right, who could choose just to continue her seat. And you're right, she would not be residing in this map's correct district. However, you're elected by the map that you were, that was in place when you were elected. So you would continue to serve those people under the map of which you were elected. It gets a little complicated. So Councilmember Cho would continue until 2024.
And she would keep her seat for District 3.
Yeah, and now I'm not sure that was Cho elected by district
Originally in 4, but
in 20.
she's actually now, the way the map's
In
drawn,
2020, right?
part of 3.
You're right.
So then in 2024, Mayor Pro Tem Cho can't run again for District 3. She would have to wait till 2026, correct?
Unless she
Or
chose
3
to
now.
run at 20, unless she chose to run
This year.
for the 2022 seat. And if she were successful, then she'd do vacate her 2024, and that seat would have to be filled.
That's why they don't want council pairings, because it's
It gets
So we have a
complicated.
motion-
complex.
We have a motion and a second. Can we just call a
Do
vote?
we have any more discussions? Do we have a first and a second? With that, we will go to a vote.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra,
No.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Mayor Robertson.
Nope. All right. With that, we will take a 5-minute break and come back at 7:12.
A break.
Thanks very much, Shalice.
Thank you.
Okay. City Clerk, we all ready? Everybody ready to start again? Box looks like 7:12. If we talk about it enough, we'll hit 7:12. Okay. All right. And with that, we're back in session. And we're moving on to item 3 of the regular agenda. Oh, item 4 of the regular agenda. I'm looking for the summary part. This is the one actually asking for a midterm budget update. Report, please.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I apologize, our finance director is not available today, so I will be taking over the presentation and happy to answer any questions after I go over. As you know, as was presented at the last meeting, we, as of the second quarter of the current fiscal year, the general fund had a net gain of $1.2 million compared to what had been adopted in the current budget. So we received more revenues than what we were expecting when the budget was adopted. And so the staff is proposing now to allocate part of that net gain to some of the new positions that were proposed in the previous item before the public redistricting public hearing item. And then when we come back for the new fiscal year budget adoption, then we'll, after discussions with the council and the goals discussion and priorities for the city, then we'll look at allocating the remainder of those funds and any new additional revenues that have not been received as of yet. In the packet, you'll find 3 exhibits, one for general fund, one for Fund 701 fleet management, and then the third one for Fund 404 development impact fees. And I'll go through what the changes that are being proposed in each of those funds are. The biggest impact and the biggest fund being our general fund, which in the current budget year, in terms of our sales tax revenue, we had adopted, or the council had adopted $7,416,330 in terms of sales tax revenue, and we received more than that. And to offset some of the proposed expenditures, which I'll get into in a minute, we are proposing an adjustment to the revenues as for $237,557.37 increase. That would bring the new proposed total to $7,653,887 based on second quarter received revenues. We're also proposing an increase to our adopted VLF in lieu of property taxes in an amount $237,557.37. And that would bring the new proposed total to $2,425,639. Now, those proposed increases are equal to the proposed increases in expenditures that staff is proposing. And I'll go down that list on Exhibit 1 here, page 262 of the packet. The first item, as you know, as presented in the previous item that was approved by council with regard to the new position allocations in the salary master schedule, we are looking to add an executive assistant to the city manager. And I believe our finance director had switched the column. So fiscal year 21-22 adopted budget actually reflects the proposed adjustment rather than the adopted budget. So just keep that in mind. Those 2 columns are flipped. So what you see in the column fiscal year 21-22 adopted budget, that data should actually be under the proposed adjustment column. So we're proposing an adjustment of $57,643 for the executive assistant to the city manager. So I apologize. The new proposed total is flipped around with the proposed adjustment. So the adjustments to the salaries to the positions are only through the end of this budget year. We're not proposing adjustments going into the new fiscal year beginning in July 1st. So it's only for the next 3 months, give or take a couple of weeks. So we're also looking to add a deputy city manager, and that adjustment for the current fiscal year is 45,380. Human resources technician would be 15,693,000. The senior accountant allocation for the current fiscal year would be $25,089. The accounting technician position that was approved, 16,934. Associate planner salary adjustment, 22,957. Planning and development manager, city planner. So we have an existing position for planning and development manager, and we're looking to rename that city planner, but we're not making any changes to the proposed salary that's currently adopted for that position, but we are asking council to allocate funding for that position, to fill that position. We talked about the adjustment for the police chief salary, which will be an increase over the existing budgeted amount for that salary. We are also back in December or January, actually, the council approved a salary increase for the finance director / city treasurer salary. That was never reflected in the budget. So that line item there is now reflecting that increase to that salary. And then we're also, as previously mentioned, adjusting the public works director salary. The new position, engineering technician, would require $17,388.80 through the end of June. And the code enforcement officer 2 position would require $18,937.60 through the end of June. We also have a couple of other increases. As you know, the council approved a 4% increase and retroactive pay for fire department operations based on a tentative agreement for a new MOU. That increase was implemented, but the budget was never adjusted to reflect that increase. So we have already implemented that increase. Now we're just catching up the budget to what we implemented and what the council approved. So that's what that $51,845 is for the MOU. Chief Peterson has experienced more overtime for fire department operations than originally expected. So we're proposing $25,000 for overtime adjustments for fire department operations. And then the same situation, the fire mid-management MOU, they received a 4% increase that council approved, but that was never incorporated into the budget. So that $3,943 reflects that. PD citywide cameras. We currently have issues with our existing surveillance cameras around the city. And in order to bring those cameras back to full operation, our police department, our acting chief, has let us know that the quote that was received to fix those cameras that assist in the prosecution of crimes that we capture on those cameras, the cost would be $36,805, and that's for a year contract to maintain and to repair. And then, as you know, the council approved on the consent agenda today a $10,000 deposit to participate in Fresno County's multi-jurisdictional housing element. And so that $10,000 reflects that allocation and that approval. Now, and that is just the initial deposit. We will come back in the new fiscal year for the additional funding for that housing element cost, which we anticipate would be around $120,000 if the number of cities that are participating remains the same. And then we've also increased our budget for human resources equipment. And what we're looking to do is implement a payroll and human resource management software called Paylocity that'll more efficiently allow us to manage our payroll, our onboarding, really every aspect of human resources and payroll. Because as you know, we are understaffed, and part of the reason that we spend so much time doing manual labor is because we don't have the right software to make us more efficient. So this will address part of that problem, and that's what that Paylocity increase reflects. On the next page, Fund 701 Fleet Management. This is an adjustment to essentially a revenue fund, which deals with our fleet. As you know, we've experienced an increase in gas prices. We've also experienced an increase in maintenance for our vehicles as a result of more on wear and tear, auto parts, tires and tubes, and auto service repairs. And then we've also increased the salary for our fleet manager as of the previous fiscal year, which all have not been reflected in the current budget. So both the revenues and the fleet and the expenditures balance out and reflect those necessary increases to maintain those operations. And I would just like to point out that our fleet management covers all city vehicles, fire department, police department, and public works, and any of our administrative vehicles. And then on the page 264, Fund 404 Development Impact Fees, City Facilities, staff is requesting a allocation from our Development Impact Fee Fund for city facilities of $150,000. So this is money that we already have in a Development Impact Fee Fund that we've collected over the years from development applications. We're just asking for the council to allocate that to specific city hall improvements. And the specific improvements are to adjust the layout of our both administration and community development parts of City Hall to accommodate additional staff. Because right now, it's not laid out efficiently enough to be able to bring new people in and seat them adequately and put them at workstations. So this would cover the cost of having a consultant come in, assess the layout, and provide recommendations as to how we should adjust our City Hall facilities to accommodate new staff. But this is money that we already have allocated for this specific purpose, City Hall improvements. And that concludes my report and presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your report, City Manager. Does council have any questions for?
Mhm.
So we upgraded. I'm just wondering what more, I mean.
I would defer that to our acting chief, Garza. Chief Garza, if you'd like to answer that question.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. In regards to the cameras, we currently have 67 surveillance cameras in the city. That funding will cover the maintenance and the upgrade for the CPE equipment to maintenance the cameras. That's what that agreement is. To maintain and upgrade the server, ma'am. Yes, that's what that is. So we haven't been in a contract with surveillance integration, I believe, since 2019, 2020. There was no contract in 2021 ever brought to council. So we're just catching up, and our cameras are outdated. And the firm that we go to now, surveillance integration, in order for them to maintenance the current camera system that we have, they have to basically come to City Hall where our server is currently located for the cameras and basically do an upgrade. And it's also the cameras that are over at Public Works as well. So are you referring to the cameras at the police department, ma'am? Yeah. I don't believe there was cameras installed. It's been a while. Now the only new cameras that I am aware of that have been installed are the new ones at the new facility, which when we moved in back in October of 2021. I will definitely look into that, ma'am. I will reach out to surveillance integration and just to confirm that.
I think we looked for both surveillance grants and for body cameras. I think there are grants out there, but the application deadline for body cameras has expired. I haven't seen anything for these types of cameras, surveillance cameras.
I haven't recently seen any grants in regards to the surveillance cameras. So the cameras that we're referring to, they're throughout the city and they have worked tremendously. They have helped detectives with investigations and even to prevent crime. So surveillance integration basically needs to come in and they need to upgrade the server so our cameras can be operable. If you look at the cameras now, they're very fuzzy and it's because there's no connection and it needs to be upgraded because it's basically outdated.
I think that hasn't been released for the current fiscal year from, I think it was the Department of Justice, if I'm not mistaken.
It was,
Acting
sir.
Chief. Okay, so we're just waiting for that to reopen so we can apply. Thank you, Chief Carson. Sure. We are required by law to update our housing element every so often. And in the past, that has been done as a joint effort with Fresno County, with other Fresno County jurisdictions managed through Fresno COG, Council of Governments. And it's that time again to update our housing element. The cost has increased significantly because of all the new laws that have come in with regard to housing. One or two jurisdictions has withdrawn from the multi-jurisdictional process, but it is something that is required by the state for us to do. Once it's completed and accepted by Housing Community Development Department at the state, then we'll be in compliance, correct?
Questions. In regards to the I guess, will we be getting, once we get the surveillance integration, will you present to the city manager, or I guess that maybe I'm out of turn, but will the police department in general present to the city manager, a service agreement or a contract that'll tell us what we should be doing yearly on a yearly basis or every, because I know that cameras and computers, I guess, just using the word computers, it needs to be upgraded. Can we eventually get a cost factor of what the maintenance would actually cost us for the near future so we can factor that in for the next budgeting season? I think that as we go on, and I believe that every one of these items has to happen, but at the same time, I'd love to see a analysis between department heads and the city manager telling us, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z, but it's going to cost us to maintain this. And if we do Z, P, and X, we're going to have a savings. What I'm saying is that, this is a true budget scenario for a city that's aggressively moving forward. But at the same time, I want all department heads to be studious as to say, if we do X, Y, and Z, we're going to save money. We're going to be on task. And I think that, those are things that we need to be doing. That's the only comment I have. I don't have anything else.
Absolutely, Councilmember. We can do that. And we actually plan on doing that for this during our budget sessions. We plan on putting that in our budget, and we actually do have the estimates from surveillance integration. We've had the cameras, I believe, since 2014 when it was implemented, and it's a great program to have.
Thank you.
We've been hearing, a lot about we're moving, changing, but what we're doing is a lot of change for change's sake. We've done so many changes. If you look around in the city and City Hall, everything has changed and it keeps changing. And now we're changing to change because we're starting to change, and this change, that's the momentum to change some more. And I think we need to get back to thinking about continuity of operations again. And instead of just change for change sakes, I mean, I see the rationale behind this increase, but what I'm seeing is a lot of increase in costs, and I'm not seeing the corresponding increase in revenue. Like Councilmember Guerra asked about Amberwood, when's that gonna go? You know, when are all of those development and impact fees going to hit? They haven't yet, because the developer hasn't put in the sewer line and the city hasn't spent the money to put in the sewer line for them, which may happen with a majority vote down the line. But what I'm seeing is a lot of spending. As the city manager was kind enough to do at my request, I asked about our legal bills. And our legal bills are on track to hit, $500,000 this year. I've never seen that. And, that's because all this change, this great change. And along with a lot of this change comes a lot of agreements, a lot of settlement agreements, a lot of things that you have to do to make sure that this change doesn't get the city in trouble. And I think we always have to be aware of the cost, the frictional costs of change and the actual operating costs of change. So while I'm not disputing a lot of these charges here, a lot of these extra costs, I would like to introduce a note of caution just to watch the expenses, watch the expense side, because, we're not always going to have the American Rescue Plan $5.9 million coming in out of the blue into the city's coffers. And we have to get back, I think, to that saving mentality as well, as opposed to just spending. There's always that. I think someone sent me an email and said, I watch your meetings, and it's like the person who goes to the bar with a charge card and says, hey, rounds on me. And it's the city that's on the card. It's the city paying the card. So I think we need to avoid the mentality of changing for change sakes and spending for spending sakes. I'm not saying that's what this is. I'm saying we just need to be careful. In terms of a more specific question on my side, the body cameras on the PD side. Once again, I read somewhere in another jurisdiction where body cams help save a couple of lives because the PD had them on, and the PD, they were hurt, they were injured, and it was the cameras that provided that evidence that the officers couldn't remember because they were injured so greatly. I still see, body cameras as a life-saving tool, as an accountability tool, and something that hopefully the city will follow up on in the future, even if it's not just all paid for by a grant. It might be worthwhile to look at the city and look at investment for the lives of our brave men and women who are on the front lines of public safety, as well as for our citizens who demand, and rightly so, require transparency on the part of the folks who protect them as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. If I may address that with regard to the body cams. It'll be it's okay, Acting Chief. It would be a decision by council to decide to pursue that investment in body cams on our own dime, or to wait for grants to come along. But we can certainly have that discussion during the budget workshops to incorporate it into the next fiscal year budget.
Could you accept this as a request to put that on our budget discussion workshops for the 2022-2023 budget?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'd like to rebut a couple of comments, and I'd like to just keep it civil. In regards to what the city council or what we've been doing the last couple of months, I want to go back to the fact of the question: why isn't Amberwood built? Why aren't they cutting the red ribbon? Why aren't they cutting the ribbon? Why aren't they opening up? And in regards to legal fees, I want to answer those questions because you know what? Transparency is very important. Mr. Mayor, you're actually sued. You sued us. You sued the city. It's on record. It's still open. That's a cost. Those 3 complaints that you did, that's a cost. The civil unrest of this council, when it started, when the city council members got elected, we started with legal fees, enormous. 2 councilwomen were attacked. There was finger pointings. And, I want to keep it civil, but I want to be accurate and I want to be transparent. So when I say these things, I say these things with factual evidence. When we talk about legal fees, this city went through some major legal fees when we had our other city attorney here. So we can all go back. We can talk about that. But let's get back to the real reason why this city is investing in its community and its staff. We're investing in this community because we want to see it grow. Every business knows that it takes money to make money. This city needs to get off the couch. For the last 10 years that the mayor's been in office, we have not grown. This city's gonna grow. And everybody, and I want to keep this civil because this has to be a good conversation where no one attacks each other and talks about what it takes to grow the city of Selma. We need people to work in this community that can be able to push the envelope. So when we start talking about in your windows and this and that, I would respectfully ask you to come and ask me and talk to me and talk and ask every council member, what are we doing? What's the best interest for this community? But when we're suing each other and we're asking questions and talking about legal fees, we have a staff here that's they're doing a best job, but you know what? We have to pay our staff adequately, but we have to hold them accountable. And that's a good way to live. So when people start talking about, our staff, our legal fees and our legal bills, and we start talking about, what we're doing, I really ask each other that instead of arguing and fighting, I'd rather work where we're going to work together and we're going to actually make something positive for this community. And that I thank you.
So that's just nonsense and ugly. And I'm not going to address it other than to say we should keep this at a certain level so people aren't bothered by what they see at the council. We want people to have a good experience watching our city move forward. This just moves us laterally. So when I make these comments, it's to make our city better. It's not like the homophobic slur you leveled at me, council member. It's not like the legal costs that you put forth for a revised code of conduct, which you didn't live by and broke the Brown Act, which you were called to account for. So let's just move forward. And as a competent manager, I look at costs as well as rolling out the red carpet for people and paying a lot of expenses, potentially too many expenses. A competent manager looks at these expenses and controls them. That's part of it. Yes, you have to spend money to make money, but you have to make sure that you have the money to spend. And in the last 10 years, our city has moved forward in a rational way. How many people have you folks heard from who've said, what's up with our city? I don't recognize anybody anymore. I recognize a few, but I don't recognize anybody. What happened to our city? And so, I try to explain that that change is not necessarily a bad thing. But when you get comments like that, that's what you see. That moves us sideways. I'm making observations in order to make our city better so that we can watch our expenses, we can grow our bottom line. And bottom line is we can make our city a better city for everybody, not just a few protected interests or buddies of council members. So that's my goal here. All right, so do we have any more comments before we put this to a vote? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra, Councilmember Trujillo, Mayor Robertson.
No. And with that, we will move on to our final item of regular business tonight. That will be a discussion regarding flags on city flagpoles and street light poles. Report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you may recall, last year during the June 21st City Council meeting, there was a discussion had about a city policy that addresses requests to place flags, ceremonial flags on city flagpoles and property. And so staff at this time is in the staff report proposing certain options that the council could discuss so that staff can then come back with a formal policy to present to council for approval after we've received direction from the council as to what should be in that policy. And so if I may, I'd like to sort of go through some of the points that city staff is requesting direction and clarification on. You know, we've done a lot of research with regard to this type of policy around the state, and there are quite a few cities that have adopted a similar policy to what the council is considering here in Selma. And it really comes down to there's certainly a priority, a due priority given to the United States flag, the California state flag, and to our own City of Selma flag. Aside from that, other flags would be considered ceremonial. And really what we're talking about here is ceremonial flags or commemorative flags for special commemorations of historic dates or events or groups of people that the council with their government speech would like to support. And so just to run down the locations where we currently have flagpoles, we have flags at Government Plaza, Veterans Memorial Plaza, Fire Stations 1 and 2, the Selma Police Department. We have flags at the former Selma Police Department, our Public Works Maintenance Yard, Schaefer Park, and Ringo Park. And additionally, the city has historically decorated city street light poles on High Street, 2nd Street, and Tucker Street, and in some cases with miniature U.S. flags in observance of Memorial Day and Labor Day. Last year, the City Council also permitted the display of commemorative Pride Month flags supporting the LGBTQ plus cause. And additionally, the city also displays the U.S. and California state flag indoors, as you can see here within the council chambers behind the City Council dais. What staff would like clarification on is potential locations. And as you know, we have the option of allowing commemorative flags on any city-owned flagpoles at the request of council members or the public. We can limit it to just a single flagpole, for example, at the Government Plaza, which is the parking lot right here in the police department parking lot. We have the Government Plaza with 3 flagpoles and a plaque that says Government Plaza at 2000 Tucker or Selma Street. And then we can also allow it on all city-owned flagpoles and decorative street lights, or any other location as determined by council. And that would also entail banners within on city property. We do not recommend allowing commemorative flags to be displayed indoors. We also should consider the timing of the display of the flags, the commemorative flags. We do recommend that they not be displayed more than once a year or for longer than 31 continuous days, and only one commemorative flag should be displayed at any given time, but certainly that's council's decision to make. I think the most pressing thing in the policy would be the approval process and how we take requests and approve and consider requests. We presented 3 options, and I'll go through them here, but really the council can come up with any of their own options if none of these options suit what you're looking for. So the first option to consider is that the city council only consider a request to display a commemorative flag if the request is made by a member of the Selma City Council and is subsequently considered for approval at a city council meeting. Requests to fly a commemorative flag by third parties would not be considered. The second option would be allowing requests by Selma residents. So if a city resident wishes to request council's consideration to display a commemorative flag, the city resident can submit a written request to the city clerk at least 30 days or any length of time that the council chooses in advance of the desired date of display. And requests would be considered on a first come, first served basis and would be time stamped in case there's any requests that come in, the same day or at the same time. And then the option 3 is sort of a hybrid of those 2 options 1 and 2. So any city council member may request approval from the full city council to display a commemorative flag. And any request by Selma residents would require endorsement by a city council member, any city council member. So it doesn't have to be, it wouldn't have to be a council member within the district that that resident lives in, and to be placed on the city council agenda for consideration. So that would require basically an endorsement by a council member to bring forth to the city council for approval. You know, one other thing that could be considered by the council is to limit any request to recognized events, causes, or groups, or on the other hand, to allow consideration of any and all events, causes, or groups. In terms of the procurement of flags, you know, the council could say, well, we're going to go out and buy whatever commemorative flag we want to put on our flagpole, or we can say we can take a temporary donation and give it back once, you know, that commemorative time frame is over. So these are some of the things to consider. I would, staff would love to hear the council's comments or feedback as to what we should bring back to council at the next meeting for adoption and go from there.
Thank you for your report, City Manager.
You're welcome.
Does council have any input on this item at this time? Does the public have any item they would like to input at this time? Please come up.
Evening, councils. Pastor Marty, 1801 2nd Street, Assembly Church. What I would just like to say is that, by the way, City Manager gave an exact understanding of the way the laws work. We stood up in the beginning of this council. We all stood up and we all said the same thing. We said we had a pledge of allegiance. Set it to that flag right there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic. This is not a democracy. Everybody likes to try to say that. It's not found in our Constitution. We're a republic. The difference is we're not motivated by majority. We're motivated by laws. We're motivated like that. So I'm not going to get into a historical meeting. What I just want to say is, to the republic for which that stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Looked up indivisible and it says unable to separate or divide. We were divided last year because of this. I just want us to consider when we stand up and say we pledge allegiance to the flag, what we really mean by that. We're just hypocrites. That flag protects everybody, from every veteran that was here a while ago, all the way through to every American citizen. As a Christian, as a pastor, whatever the city wants to do, our city manager's report, because in July we'd like to have a month to put up the Christian flag. In August, we'd like to put up the right to life flag. You can see where that's going to go. But we will come to council and say, we want the same thing. Christians have been persecuted by the hundreds of millions throughout history, and it's still happening to this day, just for the simple reason we love Jesus Christ. If there's anybody out there that's a people group that deserves to be recognized for a whole solid month, would be the Church of Jesus Christ. Nevertheless, I want us to consider that flag that stands there behind us. It is for every American, United States of America. We don't need another flag anywhere else. They want a banner, put your banner in the park, get a permit, put it on your building privately, in your own yard, or on your buildings. Whenever it goes down Main Street, it represents what we believe in. I have flagpoles on 2nd Street in front of our doors of our church, as I said last June. Shane, with all due respect, if you put one up, I'm going to tear it back down. It's not going to hang in front of our church doors. That's called division, and it says indivisible, unable to separate or divide. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, council, mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments.
This is Louis Quintana, 2435 Chaparral Street, Selma. Just some clarification on the code that we have already in the city of Selma in regards to flying flags on flagpoles, whether it's a pole or a staff. And I don't know if this is up to date, because on the website, in the Selma City Code, It's chapter 11, use of public flagpoles and staffs. And again, you'll all have to tell me if this is up to date or current. But it's 6-11-1, misuse unlawful. It shall be unlawful for any person to raise or display any flag, banner, standard, device, emblem, or other article except the flag of the United States of America, or the official bear flag of the state of California upon or from any flagpole or staff designed and intended for the display of the flag of the United States of America, or the official bear flag of the state of California, and located upon any public grounds or within any public buildings belonging to or in the possession of the United States of America, the state of California, the county of Fresno, the city of Selma, or any public district or agency. And again, help me understand that code. And also 6-11-2, only exceptions are prohibition of section 6-11-1 shall not apply to those ceremonial occasions when the flag or other colors of a friendly foreign power, the United Nations, any other state of the United States, or the official flag or colors of any military organization of the United States or the state of California are displayed with the authorization of the public agency owning in the possession of the flagpole or staff involved, and in strict accordance with the laws or regulations of the state, the United States of America, or any department or agency thereof relating thereto. So if you're developing a separate policy from the code, I'd like to understand why, and really just to say, this is code. This is what we have already for the city of Selma. And I would say just follow it, put it in the policy if you need to structure that. And again, help me understand why this isn't being followed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Nelson, 2413 Country Club Lane. Last year when we came before you to ask to celebrate Pride Month and put our flags up, we were very excited and we felt very satisfied in the decision. I feel that we're not being divided by doing this. I don't know what people are afraid of by flying a Pride flag. I feel that God loves every single one of us. You're all made in his eyes and in his heart and his love. He does not turn his back on anyone. If you don't like the Pride flag, I'm sorry, don't look at it. No one came forward and wanted their flags flown until we wanted our flag.
Can you address
up
us
Sorry.
up here? Thank you.
I'm sorry. No one came forward to say, hey, we want to put our flags up until we asked to put the Pride flags up. I am all for if we want to make changes in the policy as far as where they go, I'm okay with that, but I still would really like to have at least one flag flown to recognize the LGBTQ+ community. Do put division in our community by doing this. I don't understand what people are afraid of by doing this. I believe in God. I believe that we're all here for a reason. I believe in our American flag, but I just feel flying a flag for the people who are marginalized, and there are a lot of them. It's not just the LGBTQ+ community. There are other people that are marginalized. It does a lot for those in our community. And I would really appreciate if we could make that policy stand with that and keep our proclamation that we came with last year. And I'm just real emotional about this. So anyway, thank you very much. And I appreciate any.
Thanks for your comments.
The new policy things that you're considering, I would like to see one designated specific flagpole, having flags all up and down all the streets in the downtown area. I don't want to say it offends people, but some people's religious beliefs or whatever, they have a hard time accepting one flag as opposed to another, pro-life or not, or those kinds of things. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't agree with those flags, whatever they are. but having one central location where somebody can put a flag up if they go through the proper channels. Again, some of the things that you suggested is going to the council or going to the city clerk and submitting a request and then having that approved. However you want to do that, but some kind of prior approval. And then the time limit, I would like to see nothing more than a week, 7 days. 30 days is a really long time for one particular entity to have a flag up. There are lots of, I don't know, on the calendar, I get little things on my phone. Today is National Ice Cream Day and tomorrow is National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day or whatever. So there's always something there if you want to find something that you want to put a flag up for. So limiting it to a shorter length of time. It's not saying that people can't put their flags up, but having it for a reasonable length of time, not a whole month. There's only 12 months in the year. So does that mean only 12 people can put flags up in the year? So if it's for a week, then you open that up to 52 weeks in the year. So that opens the possibility of different groups being able to fly their flag and being acknowledged, just like the LGBTQ plus group or the pro-life group or the Christians group for Easter, for whatever occasion that people feel the need that they want to be acknowledged by the community. And the Government Plaza is a great place to put the flag that would be seen, or I personally wouldn't like to see it in the Veterans Plaza because that's the Veterans Plaza. I wouldn't want to take away from the honor that we give our veterans in that particular location. The only other place that is centrally located would be Government Plaza. Putting out a park or whatever, I don't think it's going to get the visibility that the groups would like. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Council and Mayor. My name is Kealoha Ka'olelapono. I am Associate Pastor at Christ Driven Assemblies of God Church, 1801 2nd Street. I would like to address this because it's heavy on my heart. I truly do love all people. I do. I can't think of it any other way. We went through a tough time this past month dealing with people, and I was trying to show them how much we loved them because it was hard. Or the comments that were made, yes, I totally agree. God does love all people. That's 100%. But God has his rules. God has his law. So when people look at me, and I hear this all the time, people don't value your same opinion, Aloha. And I look at them and I say, I don't have an opinion. God said it's wrong. I have no choice but to accept that as truth. Last year we heard we must put our religious beliefs aside in order to be politics. And yet we have in God we trust right above your heads. Proverbs chapter 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart. That's all your being. Lean not to your own understandings, not us, but his. To acknowledge him in all our ways, everywhere. He'll make straight the path. And I think everybody would agree with me in this room that when the council and our mayor's path is straight, we are all more comfortable. I'm not here to debate the beliefs. I'm here to say that I agree with our pastors. I have many friends in the homosexual group, many people that I help, many people I talk to, many people that come to me for support because they're my friends, they're my brothers, they're my sisters, and they're hurting. I know this is a tough issue, but these flags do represent something different, and it's a belief forced upon us. And I wouldn't want to do that to them. If I was to fly all the Christian flags across the town, I'd say, no, I'm forcing this on somebody. If you want to know Jesus, come to the church. I'll invite you and we can become friends. But I wouldn't want to force it upon anybody, and that's what's happening. If you do it in your own home, personal places, I get that. That's totally fine, but we've already addressed that. I just want to say my heart tonight, wrong. It is. Yes, the Lord loves everyone, and I love every one of you up there. God bless you all, and that's all I had to say.
Any other comments at this time? Anybody on the phone or on Zoom?
I see your hand raised.
Your hand raised.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi,
Can you
Melissa,
hear
can
us
you hear
okay?
us? Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. My name's Melissa Solorio. And as a Christian in this community, I'm completely against the flying of the pride flag in our community. We've previously mentioned the doors you are opening by allowing and promoting sin in our community by flying the pride flag. However, it seems like it's falling on deaf ears to the council who claim to be Christians. What we are afraid of is God's favor being removed from our community and nation. So I'm challenging you as Christians to follow your faith and vote no on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else on the line? Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to council. This is a discussion item. So council can have a discussion at this time. Does anyone have anything they would like to contribute at this point?
So one of the have an existing code. I didn't know that last year, and I should have looked up what our code was. But if there's already an existing, I agree that maybe there should be policy. I'd like to see that is updated and that is what we have, because we don't want to be contradicting what we already have.
Yeah, if I could address that, the code could be amended to reflect an adopted city policy. That would take 30 days. That would take when we come back with an adopted or a draft policy, we would also recommend changes to the municipal code that accommodate whatever policy council chooses to consider or adopt at that time. That would take an additional 30 days for it to take into effect. But yes, the code could be changed to accommodate any policy.
Just a point of distinction. Does the code respect the city flagpoles and the streetlight poles? Or does the city code 611.1, 611.2 more specifically referencing the city flagpoles and not the streetlight poles? Because if it were, then I mean, I would have thought that people would have come to city council to protest the Rotary Band Festival banners that appear on the streetlight poles every year, as well as the Christmas banners that appear on the streetlight poles every year. To my knowledge, the only flags that have gone on the city flagpoles are American and California flags, and should stay that way, in my opinion. But the streetlight poles traditionally in the past have been a venue for these commemorative banners, which only became an issue last year when the Pride community flew their flags for the month of June, I believe, which is Pride Month, which the White House did and which the city of Fresno did on their flagpole too. So are we talking, would the ordinance then clarify what actually is being referred to as a city flagpole and a streetlight pole? Or is this something you're looking for guidance from the council tonight?
Well, we would amend the code to accommodate whatever the council decides. So that specific section of the code that the member of the public referenced does address flagpoles, city-owned flagpoles specifically, and that's primarily to comply with federal and state law about those matters. But we can, we have several options, creating a new section within our municipal code addressing commemorative flags, or amending that existing part of our code to also include, a different type of flag.
One of the things I don't necessarily like is making a city council member, giving the city council members power to advocate for a particular commemorative banner. In my opinion, the city council can come up with some principles here, being a nation of laws. How about us being a city of laws, and saying the banners can't be pornographic, can't be obscene, They can't be overtly religious. And by that, I mean favoring one religion or another. If the Ministerial Alliance celebrating their 30th anniversary, yes, you know, and any other organization that's celebrating an anniversary, but not singling out a particular, you know, religion, and have those guidelines. And then the city gets that application. And the only reason the city, in my opinion, the only reason the city council should even look at this free speech is if there's a problem. If the city turns it down, and then the person who gets their banner turned down, the council becomes last resort, because where else are they gonna go? Sue in a court? I mean, I think that, why not go to the city council, the highest authority of the city in terms of the, let me be specific, the streetlight poles. The city flag poles, in my opinion, should be reserved for the US and the California flag only. And Veterans Park should be reserved as a veteran. I say this, I get what people are saying. It should be reserved for the veterans, only military related banners around the Veterans Park. We all heard what happened at the last council meeting, because veterans are, you know, super sensitive about what goes up in the city. And I understand there are other groups that are super sensitive about what goes up in the city. The veterans have earned their right by volunteering themselves and sacrificing their lives, potentially, in many cases, actually, to safeguard these freedoms that allow us to meet here and talk about this openly and vote on it. So they should have a space, and it should be a sacred space for veteran-related banners or flags. And I know that the Veterans Plaza is planning on having some more flagpoles in the plaza to honor the various branches of the armed services, including the Coasties, including the Merchant Marines, which I think is high time. I don't have a problem with that either. But it seems to me that that would be a system of doing it without us getting into it up here and without a whole lot of rancor and divisiveness. And then, you know, it only comes to the city if the administration or the person who's reviewing the application turns it down. And maybe then it just goes away. But then we don't have this anymore. We move forward. That's just my idea.
I think that the Government Plaza, the Veteran Memorial, Fire Station, Selma PD, the former police department, those should be just United States flag. Military banners for the veterans should be just for the veterans, nothing else. Now, High Street, Second Street, Tucker Street is what we're referring to, is fair game. And that should be for, like we're just talking, whether it's LGBTQ plus that wants to fly their banners, the religious ministerial group that wants to do their banners come their month. As long as it's not, we're talking, it's not pornographic, not political, not Satan, anything else. I mean, that's not what we want. But Rotary, Christmas, they should be able to do it too. I agree. They shouldn't be an issue. Now, the issue is going to come down to how many days can they do it? You know, that's going to be up to city to decide. Shouldn't come to council unless they get denied. I agree with the mayor. We shouldn't be going back and forth, wasting people's time on something like that. It should already be set in stone. My opinion.
Also, not to muddy the waters, but you know, we're gonna have a reader board at McCall and Rose Avenue, and that's gonna be city only. And so maybe this policy could also apply to any kind of communications from the city, because that's gonna be, from what I understand, just city events, city-sponsored events and city items.
So instead of coming to council, you want them to go strictly to the city, let them decide if they can fly their flag? Is that what we're saying?
We lay down the principles, right? That it
Yes.
can't be, can't be obscene. This is free speech after all. Obscene, can't be obscene, pornographic, religious, political, all that stuff. No, what did the Supreme Court justice say? I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. So whoever takes it at the city, and it should be a higher level city person, in my opinion, who has wisdom and can take a look at it and make that decision and maybe even pass it on to the city manager if they're unsure about whether or not to accept it. If that blows up and it gets turned down and there's a protest, then it would come to the city council. But other than that, just the city.
I think that would be fair then, if you do it that way. Like you say, hanging, if it's out there, instead of the being, I thought that being hanging at one pole would be easier on the community because they're just seeing one flag. I guess when it's around the city, I think that's where it drew the problem last year, is everybody cannot handle it, seeing it. I mean, most people can, but some can't. So we're thinking to solve it, it would be nice to be able to let them fly, anyone that wants to fly their, flag, in one area, and there's still a respective area. So I think, I agree that they should have a spot that they can, fly it and make it okay for everybody. Okay. I mean, it's not like they're gonna fly it right in front of their face. It's up to you. You don't want to look up, that's fine, but I believe that people do need to, be able to do, the freedoms that we have in this world too.
But
And,
then who gets to, then you ostracize, you potentially create like a red light district for these signs that are potentially controversial. They put it up in that one area. What about the people who want to put their banners around the rest of the city? Are they just given a pass because they're not
No,
controversial?
I'm not saying that. You said they had to come to the city anyway, right?
They do.
Yeah.
But
and
for
that's-
for the streetlight poles, for all the streetlight poles,
Still have to come to the city.
they still have to come through the city, but you're saying restricted to one flagpole.
Well,
what
that's
happens to
what
the
he was
other streetlight
suggesting
poles?
as an option, is using it, the one pole right here, the city one. But
I-
then like you say, if that's, the city, you guys, that's a council thing too. It needs to be in the code of some sort. If it, they can't fly there, then they need to be stated they can't fly there.
And who buys the flags? That's another issue. Who supplies the flags? Does the city have to do that, or?
No,
I
the
don't
council can say, we'll take temporary donations from whatever group is requesting it, or we do go out and buy the flags, so we have them ourselves. But so there's a point of clarification. So, we're talking about flagpoles and we're also talking about street poles. So whatever the council decides, there should be a distinction between allowing them on flagpoles and allowing them on street poles, or both. And so if it's the flagpoles, we'll have to amend our existing flagpole policy or section of the municipal code. And if it's allowing them on street poles, on street light poles, then we'll have to add a new section. But that is a clarification that staff is seeking direction from council on whether to allow them on flagpoles or street light poles. And just another point, if it is council's desire to make the determination up to staff, or leave it up to staff to make the determination of what is going to be allowed and what is not going to be allowed, we have to be very specific, because then we're opening up the city to free speech claims and lawsuits, because what is obscene to one person is not obscene to another person. So we have to be very careful about the language that we're using.
Which you are anyway. If it comes to council's making the same call, right? Opening the city up too. It's just a different level opening the city. But if it starts at the city, and the city can be really clear about what's acceptable and what isn't. These are subjective standards. There are a lot of these things change all the time. Common law standards. If we were having this talk 50 years ago, this would be a different discussion altogether. But this is 2022. So, there's a little more latitude here, and I think there's more acceptance out there for many of the groups that before would have had the door shut on them. So, in this case, I think the city could have those guidelines. And in fact, it may be argued that you don't want to be too precise, because then you're potentially shutting off free speech again. If you keep it, no obscenity, pornography, political, no favoring of one religion over the other, the city shows that in principle, it's trying to do the right democratic thing, as a republic, by taking care of the minority, as well as, protecting the minority from the majority, which is one of the points, one of the duties in our democracy, in our republic, of a representative government. So if we don't have it overly vague, but not too specific, then I think that's the way the city, I think, avoids any kind of potential legal problems. Plus, people are going to see what gets up there and what doesn't get up there.
At the staff level, it has to be completely objective. We have to remove any kind of subjectivity, just because we are opening up the city to that liability for free speech. And, I don't know if the city attorney wants to weigh in on this, but I mean, any language, we would make sure it, complies with constitutional standards and meets that test. But there has to be complete objectivity to any policy that's proposed at the staff level approval.
Right. So once council gives their feedback, our office would review the policy for First Amendment concerns and make a recommendation at that point.
I think it's a good starting point to at least recommend something, though, right? And get it vetted legally and then bring it back. I mean, this is just a discussion item, so it's going to come back for approval eventually, but maybe start the ball rolling and take a look at differentiating the flagpoles from the street light poles. But I don't think anything but the American flag and the California flag should go from the flagpoles, and then the commemorative flags can go from the street light poles, and maybe a particular area, one for veterans, one for community interest. Segment it how you will, but I really think that there should be that line there. Everybody good with that? Bring this matter back to council with some suggestions.
Well, what we would do is bring back
Have some policy.
the actual policy, draft policy for approval. And then if council wants to make any changes at that point, then we can do that.
Thank you.
And just to make sure there was consensus for that direction. I saw some heads nod, but I just want to make certain. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out for a really good discussion tonight. And this is a work in progress, too. So thank you. With that, we will move on to staff reports. City Manager?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
City Manager. City Attorney?
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Deputy City Manager, Rob Terry?
I did just want to make one quick announcement for the council. Wanted to make sure the council knew that the next CVTC graduation will be held on April 8th at 11 o'clock in the morning. There will be additional outreach to the council, of course, about attendance, official flyers, everything of that nature when it's done. But active partner, of course, we're very much wanted to make sure that it was on the council's radar for right now, and add additional details in the next week as we continue to coordinate with the group.
Do we have a potential time for that, Rob?
11 a.m.
Okay. And it'll be modeled on the previous ones. I've been to 3 now, I think.
That is correct.
This is
we're
the fourth-
They're
this is the
still
fourth.
ironing out a couple of the logistics that they wanted to see adjusted, but I think for the most part, it should be very consistent with the last one, if not 2 processes.
Great. Thanks for that notification. Public Works Director. Thank you, sir. Fire Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Unfortunately, tonight I do have to report a significant delay in our new ladder truck. After inspections were done, repairs were made, as I reported at the last meeting, it was in transit, and for reasons that no one can explain, the motor suffered a failure just outside of Denver. They were able to tow it into Denver. It's at the appropriate shop right now. And I received word today, we would be obviously getting a brand new motor, which the one that was in it was brand new again. So, you know, who can explain it? I don't know. I'm not a motor guy, but they did send me some pictures and hole the size of my fist. They said today that to get the motor and everything would be about 2 months. So that's what we're looking at right now. They're trying all kinds of different things to get the city compensation from the manufacturer that was responsible for the engine and things like that. Right now, we're looking at a 2-month delay, and if that.
Thanks for that update. Acting Police Chief Garza.
And Mayor, City Council members. Just gonna go ahead and start with the crime update. I have quite a bit to talk about, but I promise I'll try to talk fast. Back on March 2nd, mid-morning, some police officer conducted a vehicle stop. During that vehicle stop, officer located a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, and it was what we refer to as a ghost gun. Basically, no commercial serial numbers on the gun. That's what referred to as a ghost gun. It was an individual that was taken into custody, and also through a further search, the individual had some methamphetamine on board in the vehicle and some U.S. currency and some other items of interest that are indicative to the sales of narcotics, which was a great arrest, and the individual was transported to the Fresno County Jail. And unfortunately, this past Saturday, on March 20th, a male suspect walked into the Bank of America at about 4 minutes to 1 p.m. and basically passed a note on to a teller demanding cash. Individual ended up walking away with the undisclosed amount of money. Detectives were immediately called out. About less than 24 hours later, the next day, Sunday, detectives were on the case, and they ended up taking 2 individuals into custody as a result from that robbery. So it was a good detective work, and just not going to go into too much details in regards to that, just because there's some loose ends that still need to be tied up. On March 16th, 6 of our Selma police officers assisted the Fresno County Sheriff's Office in their Operation Gold Star. There was over 100 officers that were involved in this operation. Selma, Keensburg, Fowler, State Parole, Fresno County Probation, and Magic was also involved, and other teams, other enforcement teams in the Central Valley. And as a result of that operation, it was just a 1-day operation. There were a total of 18 felony arrests, 20 misdemeanor arrests. There were 6 firearms that were seized. There were actually a couple search warrants that were executed as a result from the contraband that was seized during that operation. And Selma alone had 13 misdemeanor arrests and 1 felony arrest. And at the meeting that I went to at the Sheriff's Department last week, they did comment on how very professional our Selma police officers were during that operation. They were very instrumental in regards to knowing their city. So very proud of our officers' successful event. Then as far as our personnel, we have a dispatcher, a safety dispatcher who starts March 28th, and we have a community service officer who will start April 4th. So we're pretty excited about that. And then as far as our special events and activities, back on March 11th, Selma PD staff conducted an active shooter training for ALMS during their in-service for all their teachers and all their support staff. Superintendent was there. Everybody involved at the upper level. Was a great turnout. And we actually, after that, we went over to the high school and did another presentation for the teachers for their in-service at the high school. It was a great turnout. They had a lot of great questions. Active shooter is something that, you know, it's a discussion that people don't like to talk about, but it's necessary. And especially to keep our schools safe. So that was a good presentation. And I don't know, about an hour after the last presentation, I got an email from the school district, hey, can you guys hit our elementary schools as well? So so well received. So that's a good thing for our city and for our kids, for our students. Coming up April 20th, we will be hosting a neighborhood watch meeting. It's going to be an informational session on how to be a neighborhood watch captain. Seating is limited. We did post it on our on the city website and on the PD's Facebook. So if you're interested, make a reservation, and we are going to use the Selma Louis Community Room for that event. And I do want to just make a side note here in regards to Neighborhood Watch. We plan on having a business watch for our downtown businesses in the near future. We're looking at somewhere in May. We know there's already a committee already that's set in place, so we don't want to step on anybody's toes and reinvent the wheel. So we are going to probably reach out to the business owners and get your feedback in regards to how we could collaborate together and keep our downtown safe. And don't forget about next Tuesday, March 29th, we will be doing a swearing in for police and fire, and that should be pretty exciting. And I just want to end with this note that I am honored to be the acting police chief at this time. Just a little bit about myself. I don't know if you know my history. I've been with the city almost nearly 22 years. I started as a community service officer, and I'm here to work hard for the citizens of Selma. I've been to many trainings. I have the education. I have the credentials, and I'm just very happy to be up here. And I'm happy to represent the men and women of the Selma Police Department. They are what we refer to as the boots in the ground. There's a lot of behind the scenes that occurs, and this is a 24-hour operation. City manager knows that. I call him all the time on Sundays, and but we're very grateful for once again for the men and women, and once again I'm honored. Thank you.
Acting Chief, thank you. Thank you for your service, and congratulations on your appointment as Acting Chief. One of the things we talked about, City Manager, a few months ago was the potential for a gang unit coming back. That is a call that the police chief makes. Are we going to be able to revisit that potential review of having a gang unit again now that we have an acting police chief?
We can review that.
Thank you for that. And thank you for that update. And I also wanted to note, last weekend, I saw a lot of PD cars around. I really appreciate that. I saw them swarming. I saw them downtown, saw them on the west side, not just in one locale, but I saw them all around. So appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Mike Kirshner. Thank you. Council reports. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
That I attended. It's a new beauty salon here in town. It used to be the SBs for some of you that are more familiar with what it used to be. And it's really good to see young, women, especially being this month. And I got to talk to her mom because I went to school with her mom, and a 24-year-old, and buying a business on her own, I'm sure she had a little bit of help, but it was all her vision. And if you haven't visited, it's a really shop. She's bringing a lot of the newer vibe kind of downtown. I also attended the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. They had a webinar, and it was mostly in communication with the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. They were outlining, a lot of the resources of funding opportunities for infrastructure, and mainly they talked about, and it was more through the economic development, for communication for the, what is it called, fiber optics and the net broadband. Thank you, the broadband, and a lot of the things that they talked about, and they ended up having glitch during the meeting, so they were like, this is perfect example of why we need to invest in our infrastructure, especially because, we, as COVID, hit, found out that we needed the broadband. And so there are some monies available. I have to look more into it so I can become more familiar with it. But so I had that, and then I attended the Mayor Cardenas services today. And one of the things that I've shared with a few people is the way that I knew Mr. Cardenas is I didn't know him through the political realm. He not only good, he didn't only do good for his community, but he expanded into the neighboring communities. And he was I think he was still involved as of, not that long ago, this last school year, with the Valley Regional Occupational Program, which is the VROP. And I'm a big advocate of that because I participated in it many moons ago. But my son was actually honored to work with him and learn from him for a couple of summers. And so, I approached his wife, Anna, and she actually remembered my son. And so she said, yeah, that, she basically he learned from, one of the best mechanics. And one of the things that took me, that made me really reflect is I had a conversation with the owner from Fowler, restaurant owner from Fowler, and she said, why do the nice ones always go? And so my response to her immediately was what I thought was, I think that's God's way to show us what we need to be, what we need to strive to be, is that good person, that humble person, that giving person, that, they're just kind of just giving and being, he was a godly person. And so, and humble, like I said. And so I think that that was just a reflection of, what we need to strive to be. The other thing is I was invited to go to Nathan Magsig is running for, I believe, District 5 of Congress. And I have a friend that invited me to fundraisers. And so I, had the pleasure to talk to him and excited of what, he's bringing. I know he's not going to represent Selma, but I know, I guess he's part of SKF. And so he said, just reach out to me, whatever you need. So I'm looking forward to that. And out of that meeting, there were other people that I was able to talk to and just, a lot of good connections that I ended up meeting there. And
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, nothing to report.
Thank you. Member Guerra?
Okay. I attended the pop-up event for Marissa Navarro, and it was, the pop-up host was Plaza and Company. And I did attend the ribbon cutting for the Golden Hair Salon. And I do want to say special thank you to Rob and everyone in the city that helped put this together, because I know it was a very short term, I think 2 weeks. And I really appreciate that. She had a great turnout. And there was lots of people, lots of families, kids. I mean, people had a great time for a Sunday because it's so, downtown, there's really nothing going on. But this was a great event, and there were so many families, citizens that came up to us and said how great this event was, and they'd like to see it continue. So little Jasmine Plaza is a little go-getter, and she's a little entrepreneur. Again, only 20, maybe 24 years old, and she's really looking to do this on a, once a month. So kudos to her, and we'll continue to support her every which way we can. I also attended the an SKF meeting, and right now everything is still pretty much at a go. Let's continue to keep staying on top of our projects with SKF and not lose sight of what's going on. And then I attended the Selma Kingsburg Fowler Chamber Mixer, which was last week, and that was a nice event. Unfortunately, it was also bittersweet because, we just lost Mr. Cardenas, and he is part of, I sit on the board with him at SKF. So it was a little heartbreaker there, but I know he was there in spirit with us. So I also attended his funeral today, and again, it was amazing, beautiful, beautiful service. I mean, it was a celebration, and everybody was there, and it just really speaks volume of Mr. Cardenas, how he just really touched everybody's hearts. And I know when I first met him years ago, he was just very, very warming, and just really took into it, took me into his wings and said, "You're going to learn, this is what you're going to do." And one thing I tell everybody from Fowler and people, his family, I said, not only the city of Fowler lost a great man, but the whole entire Central Valley, because he was very, very supportive, and very supportive of Selma, Kingsburg, and everyone else in the Central Valley. So again, that was a big loss for all of us. And just on a personal note, I did get to spend time with my grandbabies, which on Saturday, so that was a great thing, very special. So that was it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, yes. I also attended the service for Mayor David today. And what I saw is that so many people, that means he touched a lot of people. There were so many people there. And the church was full, and there was a back area that had them there. I also attended the reception, and it was at the St. Joseph, and there's the whole, church area was full. So this man has touched so many people, and had all these people showing their respect. And then, what a kind man he was. And he did touch, not besides the political world, but the regular, all that, even seems like the city of Selma, I mean, not Selma, well, the city of Selma was there, some of us. And then, of course, the city of Fowler was respected, and he was very, it's shown. I did also went to the SKF mixer, and usually that is hosted by the Chamber of Commerce of either Selma, Kingsburg, or Fowler. And so this year it was hosted by Selma, and that was really, it was a good turnout. I'd like to thank the community from Central Valley Lions Club for our Chili Birdie fundraiser. It was one of our biggest one. We sold like over 500 tickets, and we cooked all day in those walks, but it did go out. So I'd like to thank the community for supporting us. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank Joe Martinez. He's one of the unsung heroes of Selma. He goes out like every day to the underpass next to Walmart, and he cleans up, and he puts his Lions Club and his yellow vest on. And, he talked to him, and Joe, what can I get a picture? Nope, no, I don't want a picture. I don't want you to mention me. I'm just doing my part, just helping. He goes, just like you, just like anybody gives back public service. And that's really, you go to a funeral today, like I did for Dave Cardenas, and he was a really regular guy who touched a lot of lives, but he was really humble, and you could tell, he was in it for the right reasons to help his city. He was tough when he needed to be, but he was always polite too. There was a kindness to him as well. And I had the honor of walking out with him after the Council of Governments meeting and talking with him. And he frankly assessed how much time that, his public life had taken from him and his business. And it was good to talk to him, always real. And, I'm going to miss him. And it was good to see his funeral, and really beautiful to see the mariachis serenading him when, they took his casket out today to go to his final resting place. So appropriate. He used to come to Tejano with Anna, and great dancer, love music, just an effervescent soul. We lost a really good one, but, as people have said, he was a real example and inspiration. And I see it all over in Selma. I see the people who work for the city day in, day out. They don't get any praise. They just do what they do. They put in their job, but they're doing it for a really good cause. And the Joe Martinez's of the world. And, I think they make Selma and bring us all together, seeing that example. I helped out with the rabies shot clinic, Second Chance Animal Shelter. It was good to have that back after a 2-year COVID forced hiatus. I want to say thank you to Caltrans and CHP for cleaning the 43 and 99 on and off ramps. That was really helpful. That was very nice. They removed some illegal homeless encampments and relocated homeless folks to shelters where they'd be safe rather than having cars speeding at them. I attended that SKF chamber mixer. And on a sad note, Fresno County is reporting an increase in catalytic converters, increase of thefts of 900%. So it's just getting out of control. I really hope that that gets addressed because they're really expensive. You know, people, they're like 3,000, 3,500 for people to replace them, and they get like a couple $100 for them. But it's just ridiculous. It's horrible what's going on there. So thank you for our PD and our public safety and everybody in our city. And with that, we'll go to oral communications for the final time this evening. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say at this time? We have anybody on the phone or on Zoom?
To the caller that I see online, if you'd like to be added to the meeting queue, please use your raise your hand feature on the Zoom application.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?